Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We've played every mission of the mainline Halo video games, and now we're playing every mission from the rest of the games of the franchise in chronological order. Each episode will be discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be starting the Halo Wars 2 DLC with Gatecrashers from Operation Spearbreaker on the next episode. If you like what you hear and want to support the show, visit Podcast Evolved on Patreon. You can also receive a free audiobook trial by visiting audibletrial.com/podcastevolved. This episode, we are recapping our experience with Halo Wars 2. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
Okay. But do we get more blur in the DLC?
I think there is.
There better be, or else I'm revolting.
Believe we may not get some right away, but we will get some.
Good.
Eventually. I am going to run through, because this is the final main campaign. We have a little more story to explore, but this is the final main campaign from the additional games that we have so far. So If you've been listening all the way through us, you've come a long way. How many games are we up to now? It's like 13?
A million.
Impossible to count.
It's quite a few. Yeah, I don't think I can count that high. But so I'll run through what we've done so far in the non-FPS games, and then we'll kind of dig into our overall thoughts, do some comparisons back to Halo Wars 1, and we'll have a good time as always with these recap shows. So, all right. So in Halo Wars proper, the Spirit of Fire chases a Covenant fleet that's searching for ancient technology across the galaxy. The Prophet of Regret plans to use a Forerunner fleet stationed inside a flood-infested shield world, but needs a human to activate the ships. The Arbiter, Ripamorami, captures Professor Ellen Anders and forces her to wake the Dreadnoughts. To save humanity from certain doom, Captain James Cutter gives the order to use the Spirit of Fire's FTL drive to destroy the shield world while the ships are still inside. Sergeant John Ford sacrifices himself by manually activating the FTL drive, causing the planet's sun to go supernova while his comrades make a furious escape. The remaining crew, including ship AI Serena and Spartan Red Team, are left floating in space with little hope of rescue. That took place from February 4th, 2531 to February 25th, 2531. And we never heard from them again. Or did we? In Fireteam Raven, we dropped out of slipspace and explored the mysterious Halo ring that Cortana randomly brought us to. With the help of AI Wellesley, Fireteam Raven battled the Covenant, discovered the Flood, and helped Master Chief use the Pillar of Autumn's fusion reactor to destroy the Ring World superweapon in order to save all life in the galaxy. That took place from September 19th, 2552 to September 22nd, 2552. Now we get our twin stick shooters. Here we go. In Halo Spartan Assault, the Covenant Splinter Sect violated the Treaty of 2552 and attacked the UNSC forces stationed on Dratheus 5. The planet's moon was discovered to be a Forerunner creation that could both build and destroy planets. Spartans Davis and Palmer led the effort to stop the Covenant leader, Mergval, from harnessing the devastating technology, repel the invasion, and evacuate the system. Davis doesn't survive the operation, but Palmer perseveres and honors her fallen comrade. That took place at some point during 2554. Now in Spartan Strike, during the Battle of New Mombasa, two separate teams of ODSTs obtained critical pieces of Forerunner technology. The Conduit, an artifact with the ability to activate portals across the galaxy, and the location of a portal device. The Conduit is lost as the Prophet of Regret leaves Earth, but it reappears in 2557 on Gamma Halo. Two UNSC Spartans are deployed on separate missions, one to obtain the Conduit and the other to locate the portal device. Both successful, the Spartans retreated to Earth and shut down a second portal located in New Phoenix to stop the Covenant and Promethean invasion. that took place originally back in 2552. That was 1020. And then in July 2557, so Halo 2 time frame and Halo 4 time frame. Now, in Halo Wars 2, after 28 years adrift in space, the UNSC Spirit of Fire is mysteriously transported to the Ark, and its crew is released from cryosleep. Douglas 042, Jerome 092, and Alice 130 are sent to scout the surface of Installation 00 and obtained a logistics AI named Isabel. However, they also encounter the current occupants of the Halo Maker, a vicious conglomerate of Covenant defectors and mercenaries known as the Banished, led by a Girolane named Atriox. Captain Cutter orders a series of operations aimed to reduce the Banished grip on the Forerunner technology that lies within the Ark. Desperate for reinforcements, Red Team helps Isabel neutralize the Banished carrier ship, while Professor Anders releases a new Halo from the installation's foundry. With Atriox's forces stranded on the Ark's surface, Anders takes the ring through slipspace to get help, while Cutter and the Spirit of Fire keep an eye on the Banished from above. All that takes place from March 28th, 2559 to April 2nd, 2559. So we did it. We made it through the campaign. Now, how are we feeling with this story, like where we're left? The DLC brings a couple more things, but it's more like little side stories to explore. But we've come all this way, and we're up to date. So in these recaps, we're not really trying to do the same approach where it's like we don't know what's coming, but we really don't know what's coming because Halo Infinite's coming. We know a little bit. We don't know a lot. How are you feeling about where the story is left in Halo Wars 2, David?
Really excited. And I remember when even the first time I played it, thinking it was weird, but also really liking that you never directly fight Atriox. That he's just a character in the way Cutter is. That he's not on the field. I enjoyed that because of how much I enjoyed the build up of Atriox and being like, they better not make this cool character and kill him off in the one game he's in.
Yeah.
Because I find that really annoying for Halo. So I really like the fact that he is still a major threat at the end, and the game sells that really well of showing you that we know, let's say when this game came out, Halo 5 was already done. I can't remember. I'm blanking. It was, of course.
Yep, Halo 5 came out in 2015. This came out in 2017. Yep.
Yeah. So
we
this
knew
is
the furthest advanced. Yep.
Yeah, we knew that this took place after Halo 5, which was exciting. Even though it's in a different sphere, we knew it. And then the fact that this game then ends on the cliffhanger it does with sending a Halo ring with Anders on it back to let's say closer to UNSC space, and that's really fucking cool. And I'm like, because that obviously bridges the gap or kind of links the two spheres of okay, the Ark is so far out of the way with the portal down, it's pretty much almost inaccessible. It takes months to get there, so it's impractical. So they're kind of cut off, and the rest of humanity knows nothing about the Spirit of Fire even now, which is crazy. But it gets really exciting thinking about how they could cross over, and then again, we know with kind of stuff in Infinite and stuff, we can't really talk too much about it, but that's cool. Do you know what I mean? So how this story ended, I really liked. I liked that it sets up that there are huge battles took place, but there's still huge forces in play, and they're still important. So I really enjoyed that. I like where the game ends you off.
Atriox he still, it shows this massive army still in the Ark, but he really has no way to get off of the Ark currently. I mean, the Cutter and the UNSC are gonna, try to keep him at bay. But meanwhile, he's on the Ark. He has engineers. He has access to a lot of technology. There's a chance he's gonna figure a way to get off, and then somehow, get back to the larger story. Halo Wars, the first one was, I forget if we talked about if it was meant to be a one-off story, one and done or not, but it was more lore, it's more extended universe and it gave us a way to play with, all these units and vehicles that we always wanted to play with, but we never really have had the chance to because we've always been, Master Chief. So it's interesting. I'm glad that they did this second game in the same RTS format and took the approach of, hey, let's introduce a new faction that could play into the larger story. But I guess the question is, will it, and how soon will it? Krista, what are your thoughts on folding the Banished and this story back into the FPS games?
Well, I think two things were accomplished from this game that 343 wanted to kind of do. One, of course, they brought the Spirit of Fire back, but two, they introduced the Banished. They said, here, this is the new big threat in Halo. These are the guys you should be worried about right now. And, here is why. And then they kind of give you the reasons why throughout this book. And also, they kind of bring the Ark back into play, but not really.
Well, I think they were struggling with the remains of the Covenant, what to do with that, right? Technically at the end of Halo 3, which is a long time ago, the Covenant is no more. Granted, there's a bunch of infighting and power struggles and things like that to keep the Covenant alive, but it was
too big of an empire to just fade away after one battle at Earth. Do you know what I mean? It had to destroy itself at that stage because of humanity's forces being so beaten back to the point like there was no way we could have quote unquote won. So this it had to, the way it went was clever and good. Do you know what I mean? And obviously broke apart into factions that let us keep fighting quote unquote the Covenant in later games and stuff like that. So
but here's the thing with the sex of Covenant was there wasn't ever a good villain that kind of lived up to the Prophets.
Right.
The Prophets were great villains. They were so much fun to hate.
Yep.
They were interesting. They were batshit crazy. They had a lot of history. There were a lot of reasons to hate the Prophets, especially Truth. He was a great character. And games need a good villain. You need to hate someone and have a goal.
You need a figurehead, right?
Yeah. And I think Atriox, them making Atriox and building him up to be such a great villain was probably the smartest thing for them to do. Because he's probably better than the Prophets ever were. Because the Prophets were never really, they were politically powerful, but they were never powerful in their own right. Atriox is one
intimidating them.
Yeah. Well, they just played the game, though. Right? But Atriox is actually like a warrior. Like, you're not just going to go and stab him in the back like Arbiter did to Truth. Like, he's going to put up a fight. So, I think that's an interesting...
Or get wasted by an assassination by Locke.
Yeah, that's not going to happen either. Like, Atriox is a super... Because Jewel Mandama wasn't a super good villain. He was kind of... Yeah, he was just kind of there. He was just there to, like, get the Didact involved in Halo 4, and then he was just
He was there to be the organization... He was there to be the organizational force behind that new Covenant. Like we still... Because... the handoff of Halo from Bungie to 343 and stuff like that, like, Halo is still... fighting the Covenant or fighting aliens is still a big part of Halo, and it always will be. So there needed to be that handoff, and the Covenant needed to still be in Halo 4. So they included the Covenant. Their main character was the Didact, but we didn't really get to see Jewel or, like, who was leading the Jewel's Covenant until Spartan Ops. And he didn't get enough. I don't know. I mean, I guess he did. He was fleshed out a decent amount, but maybe he wasn't that interesting.
His most interesting parts and build up were all in books. Do you know what I mean? So he never. That's true. He almost comes across like two different characters almost in terms of games and books. So there's too much about him that doesn't come across, which is a bit disappointing. But I think they did a great job with Atriox. Even they didn't do anywhere near as much. I just think they nailed the character better. And even then, like, there's still so much we don't know, because we've been talking this whole game, like, what are the motivations here? Like, it's all on the UNSC side. We don't really know what Atriox is trying to do.
No.
So,
which is actually kind of smart. He's a villain, but we don't know his motivations, which means they can go anywhere with his character.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, to that end, the Spirit of Fire shows up at the Ark. They track a signal down. They, get beat up by the Banished. What if they just went out of range? I mean, I guess they thought, okay, well, there's the Banished there. They're aliens. They don't like us. They're on the Ark. They are probably a threat to us directly. We don't want them to harness the technology, so we need to not let them have this technology by doing everything that we can to stop them or chip away at them. But I guess my question is, like, did Cutter have to engage the Banished? I mean, probably, right?
They were gonna kill him.
What else
I
were
mean,
they
don't
gonna
like
do?
humans.
I mean, well,
But
once
do
they
once they care about humans?
Not really. Like, Aatrox doesn't. I mean,
they killed everybody on the Ark.
Probably do.
Yeah, here's the problem. They landed on the Ark, they found a human outpost, they got in there, everyone was dead, and then they instantly engaged with them.
Yeah.
Like, what was Cutter supposed to do?
Right. Yeah, because they did slaughter, and that's what Isabel talked about, how they slaughtered everybody to gain control of the Ark. So they essentially cleansed the Ark of all humanity. So, yeah, there was that threat, I guess, described by Isabel back to Cutter. So that makes sense.
Teensy weensy detail.
Yeah. I mean, it still doesn't speak to the motivation question, but he at least
Cutter had a motivation.
Yeah. Right. And so did Isabel.
Yes.
So what do you think, though, about folding into Infinite, Krista? What are your thoughts? Is there I feel like we can talk about that stuff in the recap shows. We'll if you're worried about Infinite spoilers, there's only so much we know about Infinite at this point as of recording. So you're just curious, what you think would make the most sense for the franchise folding. How do we pull, or do they pull in this arc story, these characters into Infinite?
Maybe not in Infinite. I feel like Infinite's goal is to kind of introduce the Banished into, Halo kind
the
of
wider
crime,
community,
I guess. Yeah, because some people are not going to play Halo Wars. They're just not.
Yeah.
They don't know who the Banished is. They don't care. They want to play Infinite and know what's going on. So, I mean, there's probably going to be references to what's going on in the Ark or something like that, but I don't think the Spirit of Fire is going to show up in this game. I think there's a potential for the next game, but I think of this game kind of almost like the Halo Combat Evolved, where it's just kind of trying to set up everything, and then the next game might be the wider perspective.
You're talking about Infinite or Halo Wars 2?
Yeah. Infinite.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Halo Wars 2 is almost the prequel, right, to Infinite, which would be kind of... They're almost trying to make a foil of Combat Evolved at this point, right? I mean, so here's the one bad guy, you're on this ring, and here's going to be kind of a contained story that might broaden out to something different later. Yeah,
David, what do you think?
I reckon...
What are your thoughts on that?
Because of how this game ended, I think, and the way what we've seen of Infinite will only, I think, tie into this game with the word Aatrox. I don't really think anything else will be brought into Infinite from this game. Basically, because they're too separated by distance. There's no communication there. The only thing that links the two is Anders taking that ring and going and getting interrupted by a Guardian. So that's the only really linkage there that I could see, that a thread that they could tie into Infinite. I don't know if they will, because that might be too much, given the fact that Infinite is going to set up a whole new faction of the Banished, and it's going to be Iscarum, it's going to be these new sub-captains and bosses. What is it, the fist, the hand of Aatrox or something? I can't remember.
Aatrox, yeah.
And these characters will be the main ones. I don't see them trying to tie in any Spirit of Fire stuff, because it doesn't make sense, to be perfectly honest, given what we know of Infinite at the moment.
What do you think about the lack of created?
Well, like, what is created at this stage? Are they just AIs? Are they Prometheans? Are they I mean, Aaron has a theory of like the banished are mercenary forces, which they are actually described as mercenaries. So are the created, have they hired them in such a way to be their muscle? Like, there is potential there. I don't know what combat against created is like. Do you know what I mean? We haven't seen anything like that yet, and we know Cortana is now physical. How many other ones are? What are they? Are they like godlike beings? What are their powers in the real world? Do you know what I mean? It's weird. It's weird to think. There's just so much we don't know, and probably won't know even in Infinite itself.
It might be for Infinite, for them rebooting the series. It might be too hard of a concept to grasp in the first game. Like,
well, not for people that have been playing all the games.
I mean, like fighting the created and how they're gonna manifest and stuff like that. It might be easier to just have the created hire the banished and then attack humanity that way.
I mean, at the end of Halo 5, Cortana, and I've done some research and heard opinion on this, and I tend to agree with some of the voices out there, but the created were too big of a threat.
Yeah.
Like, they were all powerful with all these guards. Like, humanity had no chance, but humanity needed to survive somehow. So it'll be really interesting to how they fill in the gaps, and how how we find Floaty Chief, and what, I mean, what the actual makeup of the created is. To David's point, that's the biggest mystery to me going into Infinite. What does the created look like in the next Halo game? We don't know that. I mean, we know Cortana's in it because we've heard her voice. She's gonna be involved in some capacity. She has to, but we just don't know. That's the big mystery. So meanwhile, we have the Banished, and we've Halo Wars 2 gave us the Banished, and some of the lore, the extended lore, the books have written the Banished into that story to more or less say, hey, they were around the whole time, to I don't know, validate or just bring them into the fold. I think they did that pretty effectively through the extended lore stuff. But yeah, I think from a casual gamer standpoint is like, well, I'm gonna be playing Halo, I'm gonna be fighting aliens, and this is now the Red Covenant, right?
Yep, pretty much.
That's pretty much it. But I think what's also, I mean, this story has, because they've brought the Spirit of Fire to the Ark, and the Ark is a location of a mainline Halo series. I mean, everybody knows the Ark from Halo fans. I think that cements that, like, we're going to go back there. Do you know what I mean? That link is too strong now. I think that like to leave it to chance or anything, or to leave it a ship wandering in space. They're back. Do you know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, we are going to go back there. The Spirit of Fire, those two storylines are going to overlap. I don't know if we'll get another Halo Wars game, but obviously they've got a perfect setup there of just keeping the event, what's happening on the Ark while the Infinite events are happening. Do you know what I mean? It can easily be done.
What about the Halo ring itself? So, I mean, that's the other thing.
The one created in this game?
Halo 5 left off with a Halo ring. It could be any Halo ring, technically. And it could be at any time. They just kind of show it, and then they have Cortana humming over it. You assume that she's humming,
connects the created to it.
She has the ring, but maybe
the
not.
The huge link here that I think, and I said it in the last show, but like, what really would have made sense to me to tie these two franchises together is like, Anders takes that ring, teleports it, but there's Banished forces on it, and that's what drags the Banished forces into the mainline Halo. Because now you have Anders with her information, you have Banished now being brought into an area where they weren't before, you have a Halo ring to fight on. That all seems like super easy writing to like make a game and have that intersect with Guardians. Clearly you have a Guardian stopping the ring, which links to the current timeline of the created, because the Guardian is there. So like, there you have Guardians, there you have created, there you have Banished, there you have UNSC. And that to me made way more sense. That's where the fight was, that humanity lost that has banished on a ring that's broken.
Sure.
So it just seems, yeah, and obviously it's Day of the Halo, so we know it's definitely not that. But in my brain, that all lined up really nicely to build Infinite like as a game.
Right.
But like you said, we have this unambiguous ring, and Cortana is singing. It makes sense that we just saw, quote unquote, Anders stare down a Guardian. Who do you think won that fight? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%. That ring belongs to the created, so that could totally be that ring in Halo 5.
So do they have two rings, or is it the same ring? You know, that's the question.
But we know, okay, I see what you mean.
Right. I mean that's possible, right? Because there's still some rings we haven't been on.
So maybe it's a scramble for power that the created have a ring, the banished have taken a ring. Humanity are like, oh shit, we need a ring, so we fight for one, lose.
Yeah. I feel like they have a little explaining to do because, well, just regarding the banished, we still don't know how Atriox got to the Ark, and then but based off of the information from Infinite that we know, there is banished out there that's not a part of Atriox's, I don't know, current army. So at some point, Atriox took a bunch of banished, and they went to the Ark. He found out about the Ark. He was transported to the Ark somehow. Dropped out of some place.
I think he just made the journey.
The
months. I think he just traveled, like conventionally to get there. I don't think he portaled in or did anything fancy.
There's no way.
Maybe he went to the Ark. Maybe he went to the Ark to get a Halo. Maybe he found out about that somehow.
He didn't seem. I thought that like his reaction to the Halo ring coming out was more surprise and shock. I didn't know if he knew that that's what the Ark did, or that it had to do. But then again, he's also, I'm probably giving him way more credit, but he would be smart enough, I think, to know that. And he also seems to have engineers on his side, so I think he has access to like way more of the Ark systems.
But engineers, they only give up so much information, right? Like you have to ask them the right question.
True.
For them to give up that info. But I know what you mean.
And even, actually, now we've even talked, like, even Guilty Spark didn't know what was on the Ark. He thought the Ark was literally a place, like an Ark, to stay outside of the blasting zone of the thing to actually survive on. I don't think he knew that.
Yeah, because he found out it made Halo rings, right, in Halo 3. He's like,
exactly.
Yeah, I get a new one. Let's go.
Yeah. So you wonder how much of that information is out there in the wild.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know how big the Banished really are, because we know that Atriox has a huge force on the Ark. You know, we killed a lot of them in Halo Wars 2, but he didn't take his full force. The rest of the Banished were still left somewhere as he took his army off to the Ark, or this portion of his army off to the Ark, and then I guess we'll find out. So there's a lot of interesting stories that they can still tell, more or less. You know, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if we somehow play the gaps, or if we just pick the story up, kind of like what we did in Halo 4. We just kind of picked the story back up from, Chief floating in space. Anything to add, Krista, before we move on?
No, I think I'm good.
Right. What do you think about just Halo Wars 2 as an RTS game? Separate from the story, Krista, I guess you're not a big RTS person. You're clearly good at them, but I know you don't play them, religiously. What did you think about just the experience of playing Halo Wars 2 as an RTS game?
I think it improved a lot of stuff from Halo Wars 1. Of course, it's been a good couple of years between the two games, so of course there's going to be a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's really enjoyable to play. It really brings in the Halo elements. You still feel like you're playing a Halo game, even though it's completely different from a normal Halo game. And I think they use the Halo assets very smartly, like the Scorpions and all the different Halo units that we get in the regular game. I think it's really well implemented. I think it works. I think it's fun. I think it was.
Do you think they advanced enough? For does it set itself apart enough from Halo Wars 1? Did we need Halo Wars 2 from like an RTS standpoint? did it need that refining? I mean, from a story
I think
standpoint,
the new
they
modes
brought forward a lot of things.
I think the new modes really sell it, and I ignored all of them, to be honest. But I thought you said we need an RTS. It's hard to say because RTS is a very old genre that is not prevalent. I would say for the most part, it's PC dominant, so that you get loads of them over there, even if they don't break through to like mainstream. But Halo Wars 2, I thought did spectacular. I know it probably didn't sell gangbusters, but it's a great story. It's really well told. As an RTS game, I thought they did an amazing job of taking the first game, completely different studio, and making a game that felt exactly the same, that played and controlled so well. It's so familiar. I like the changes that they made. I didn't realize how much changes that they made. If you go back to the first episode that we did about, like, I just assumed that by playing Halo Wars 1 that's how Halo Wars 2 played, but it totally wasn't. In terms of how leader powers, base building power, and resources, and how they work being very different. But like the multiplayer mode is not something I'll ever really be interested in. But having Blitz and Blitz Firefight, that's so much fun. Like, that's
talk about
way
that.
more
You guys
fun
played.
than I said. Yeah. We can transition. So like, I knew it was deck building, but when I see that kind of mechanics, I just zone out. Like, I'm just like, no, I barely pay too much attention to rec packs. I'm just not able for it. But
did you open a bunch of your rec packs or your?
I had 64
packs?
that were untouched.
Okay.
So I opened all 64 of them
Nice.
before I played.
How
with
did it make you
Krista.
feel?
Meh. I was like, what? I did not know what I was looking at. I'm getting things.
Well,
and I'm like, that's not
he
what a
just
hornet looks
opened
like.
them.
What the hell is that?
He didn't play the game before he opened them, so it
No.
meant
Okay.
nothing to
There were no
him.
context. But then I was
Like,
looking
cool.
at units and things, and I was like, that's not real. What the hell is that? And then you have these, like, there's Marines that suck the life. They have they're siphoned. They have these siphon weapons. I was like, gee, what the fuck is this? It's like, there's
Yeah.
so many things in there that aren't in the main game. And then when I played through the tutorial, which is pretty short and not, I suppose the mode itself was pretty simple now that I think about it. I didn't think it did a great job of telling you what you were doing. But maybe it's also because I was really rushing to get it done so I could play with Krista. But it's like, it's actually very, very good. And I was super impressed. Myself and Krista played one game of Blitz co-op. And I'd never played it
Firefight.
before. Firefight, sorry. Which is like, you have 2 bases, 2 armies, you have separate resources. So Krista played Covenant and I played UNSC, but we were co-oping against an AI enemy that has waves. And the waves changed armies halfway through. So we were playing Covenant for the most part, or against Spanish, let's say. And then it switched to us fighting against UNSC forces, which was an absolute mindfuck.
Oh, it was awful. It was
Because
awful.
me and Krista are like trying to kill Spartans and fighting against Spartans is scary.
Yeah.
There was also a whole round of just Spartans.
Really?
It was
Yes.
only Spartans, and we did
Was
not do very well.
Was it Omega Team? Because didn't they bring Omega Team into it?
It was
See,
just
I didn't
random.
know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was.
I have
seemed
no
like
idea.
Just random Spartans.
Okay. Yeah,
It
there
could have been, I
is
wasn't
a
paying
card
attention.
for
There's a
Omega,
unit,
which is a cool
yeah.
callback to Halo Wars.
That is really cool. So I looked at some of the cards, but like the deck building part of it, I didn't delve too deeply in. I just added a bunch of random decks. I can see where it's going.
Yeah.
In terms of like the different leaders have like certain powers, have certain decks, and it's very interesting. They give you a ton to play with. I think it is cool. I think it's really well done. I mean,
Which leader were you?
I pick Cutter.
Okay.
I didn't delve into like the differences that actual leader makes. I think you just have access to different cards. I'm assuming, different leader powers and stuff.
Yeah.
Different cards, different leader powers.
Yeah. So like the units I had I had some cool units, but like they obviously have variations on the units. So like they have things called like troop warthog, which means when the warthog blows up, dudes jump out of it and keep fighting, and you have a unit of marines. I'm like, that's really clever. I thought that was cool. They do the same with like hornets and stuff like that, and I got vultures and I was dropping things. I mean, there's no population cap, so like, man, I had some fucking army, man.
He had a
dumping dudes in.
huge army. It was crazy.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
And I realized then how the cards cycle through, and then you just build up your power, and you keep pumping down new units. And I'm like, this is awesome. I love this.
And you got to get, is it called, I forget what it's called, energy or whatever. You got to go to the spot and blow up the little...
Firefight works a bit
purple stuff.
differently, I think, but like the purple stuff is what gives you currency to spend on your cards, and that naturally like fills up over time as well, I think. There's they try to explain it to you in the tutorial of what it actually really is, but like who really cares? It's just currency. And then there are 3 control points on the map, and if you have to control the majority, you like a thing counts up, and you lose the game when the enemy's thing goes to 100%. So it's just a percentage that builds over time. I don't know. I can't remember what it is. I wasn't really paying attention.
It's your as you're sitting on the 3 points.
Points, yeah.
Yeah, but
if we're on,
what is
if
the
they're
thing
on
you're
one
getting? Is kind of what I'm thinking. Like
you don't get anything. You're just denying.
It's just
enemies.
domination
it's just,
points.
okay, yeah, it's just a generic thing that you gain. Okay, that's fine. But I thought it was excellent. I really thought it was proper enjoyable. Playing with Krista was super enjoyable. Like the co-op experience was so much fun. It was just like us calling out random shit and like freaking out when we saw like an enemy spawn, like because they spawn in waves. So like I dropped an archer missile that I will probably remember till the day I die, Colin. It was so good. Like the enemy came in, I dropped my archer missile, I lined it up, and like I wiped out, I would say like 5 million dudes. Do you know what I mean? It was just so satisfying to see them all clumped together and knowing exactly what I was going to do. And it was Marines, so it felt kind of weird, but also awesome. Archering like human forces, but I like the way there's no story in it. Like it's just fucking go away and have fun, and it does a super good job. I know there's microtransactions involved in it. I would not be fucking bothered going near any of that shit. But
well, you do. So with the cards will upgrade the units that you have, so they'll become more powerful, have more health, hit harder, that sort of stuff.
I noticed that.
As you get duplicates. So, just for an example, like if you have a Marine unit and you get another Marine, or if you get a Marine card to like unlock that unit, and then as you get more Marine cards in your packs, you keep upgrading your Marine unit for that leader, and so over time, the more packs you get, the more you play, the more packs you get, the more packs you open, the more essentially like the more of each unit that you get, the more powerful they will get over time. And you don't have all of the units unlocked right away, so you have enough to, like if you didn't have any packs or anything, you have at least enough units unlocked to field a team, to field a deck of, I think it's like 12 different cards that you need to have in your deck. And then you'll slowly unlock new units with the new card decks, but then also get duplicates, which power up those units that you already have. So I think it's an okay system, but yeah, you could definitely... I could see myself as I opened all my packs and then I played a couple times. I was like, oh, I can see how this could, like, if I was losing, if I was big into multiplayer online, and I was like, oh, my guys just aren't strong enough, I could see how that could become a little bit of a, a little money sink, or at least the desire to. But I mean, that's kind of how they built it. That's how that monetization goes.
Yeah, it's a cool mode. Very impressed.
Yeah. Krista, what have you spent much time with Blitz, or have you avoided it?
When Halo Wars 2 first came out, I think I played a bunch of Blitz Firefight. I used the cyborg lady, who was one of the DLCs.
Oh yeah, Kansano. She's good.
Yeah, she's cool. She's like the fire lady, right?
She's the fire lady, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I used her a lot. I remember having a pretty good time. I was just kind of played by myself and just kind of zoned out and just enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I did. It's a good time. Like, whether you're playing it with other people or you just want to sit down and you don't necessarily want to play the campaign, you just want to build stuff and make things. It's a great way to go. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty engaging.
There's a lot of strategy too.
Yeah,
you have to choose from which unit of the 4 or 5 that you're presented with based off how much of the currency you have. Do I build 2 of these, or do I build one vulture?
And you can spend 5 to cycle a card as well.
Oh, okay.
I think I imagine there's a lot of multitasking involved. I like how they keep it simple where there's no base building, which I like. It's just the resource and the units. But like as you try and you're gonna have to. Didn't bother spreading units. Krista was more like I'm spreading a unit here. I have units here. I have a unit there. I just had a blob and moved it around. Is pretty much all I did.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't tactically very sound, but like I think if you were playing solo, it'd be way more difficult. Because you'd have to balance the capture points and what units are on them and then fighting the waves. I think it actually tells you with an icon when the wave launches what it's going to be. I started noticing that where like sometimes it would be a question mark, sometimes it would be like leaders, sometimes it would be aerial units would spawn, and it would get. But like we're talking like you have 4 seconds of notice of what's coming towards you. So like maybe you could drop some Wolverines if you knew it was going to be aerial based or whatever, but it doesn't give you that much time to like really react to the wave that's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a cool mode. It's a good iteration, and I'll apologize to all the multiplayer people out there. That's not our specialty. We're obviously the lore side of stuff. So we've dabbled in Blitz. We're not going to talk about the other multiplayer modes. I don't think any of us have spent much time with the multiplayer, but I know in general they've, my sense is they've done a really good job with the multiplayer. Continuing to make upgrades and listening to the community. I know there is a community still out there that's playing this game, and all the DLC that we've talked about is like the campaign DLC, but they've had a lot of leader DLC, leader power DLC.
They got like 5 or 6 DLC leaders.
Yeah, there's a hunter DLC. It's like called Colony.
The Colony.
Yeah,
a Sergeant Johnson
Legolo.
one where
Right.
the Sergeant Johnson's ultimate unit is himself in a huge mech suit.
Yeah.
Another great one is Yap Yap the Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just a bunch of grunt units, which is really fun.
Yep. Yeah, they've done a good job with the ongoing support that took place. And then I don't think there'll be any more leaders or anything like that. But they just did make an update recently as of recording. So they are still keeping an eye on it and keeping it up for the people that are playing it and do want to continue to play Halo Wars, because right now, I mean, when we think of Halo, we think of the first-person shooter games, but this is an awesome way to play with all of the toys. That's what we called the toy box during the show. These are all you can play with all the toys in Halo Wars, and 343 is allowing people to do that and continue to support it. All right, I wanted to mention a couple, there won't be much trivia in this one because we don't focus on that for the recaps, but I did want to at least mention that there are some unused skulls. We mentioned all the skulls during each mission when we unlocked them, but there are a handful, actually 8 of them, that Halopedia, and I know Chris Aiken's drawn attention to them as well, they discovered them in the code of the game, but you can't actually unlock them. They're not available in all the skulls to choose from, but they're in the code. So they had plans for them at some point, but they just didn't make it into the final game. So I just want to at least list them off because I think it's interesting, and you can look them up on Halopedia, and they do have little icons. And we talked about how the skulls, like the art for the skull, is so cool in this game. They do have their own individual look and feel to them. So I'll just go down the list here. One of the skulls is Vampire, and that ability is every unit would be granted a siphon passive, so similar to what David mentioned that they used in Blitz. So they'd suck the life out of one of the other units, and then power up or provide health to your unit. Another one is What's in the Box. Every 5 minutes, boxes are deployed around the map. Upon touching these boxes, will grant the player a random unit.
I like that.
That's kind of fun. Yeah.
I like that.
That can be pretty cool. Let's see. Moon Gravity reduces the gravity and explosions. Launches victims much farther.
So bodies are just flying everywhere.
Right. That would be fun. They had Fog planned, which was a Halo Wars 1 skull, but they didn't bring it into Halo Wars 2. And that's just the HUD is disabled, and I know that
I don't even know how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, people would probably want that for screenshots and things like that, but I don't know what else that would be tough otherwise.
You wouldn't be able to see your resources and stuff like
Yeah,
that. You wouldn't be able to see your units when you go all units. You just have to look at them.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any other indicator on there, like, probably not, but like your resources counting up on the physical fire base or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. The zoom way in.
Yeah.
The next skull is Iron, which we've seen in other Halo games, and that's just when you failed a mission, you would restart at the start of the mission. There's no checkpoints, and that's a standard Halo skull. They did include one called Nightmare, which is like Iron to the extreme, where there's no saves or checkpoints in the campaign at all. So I think if you have Nightmare on, then you'd have to restart the entire campaign, perhaps.
God damn.
But so Iron is a little bit lighter version of that. The next one is Look Daddy, which was also a Halo Wars 1 skull. Whenever a grunt unit dies, their gas tanks will send them flying around.
Perfect.
Yep. Clear Skies, it removes the fog. So as you start the map, you can't really see everything, but when you have this skull on, you just be able to see where all the banished units are, which would be, I guess that'd make it easier, right? That would probably decrease your overall score. And the last one is Cowbell, which is also Halo Wars 1, and explosions would increase. So bigger explosions, which we all love. So we did, I talked with Chris Aiken through Twitter, and he brought in Jeremy Cook, who was the actual lead art director for Halo Wars 2, just to kind of confirm what these things are all about. So someone along the lines found this stuff in the code, and Jeremy just said, yeah, these were in there, we had plans for them, and they never made it into the game, and there's probably never going to make it into the game at any point, but they're just there. So people found them, and they're out there. So it was cool to at least get him to respond to that and confirm that they exist, but they're not going to be, a new element of the game anytime. So yeah, that's my little trivia that I uncovered. Let's do our comparisons like we always do. We're not going to compare to the other, twin stick shooter games. This is the kind of the last of the non-FPS games. But I do want to at least compare, go through our categories and compare back to Halo Wars 1, because there's probably some aspects that you guys like or I like from Halo Wars 1 that just wasn't the same, or we thought was better than the new game. So let's start with the gameplay standpoint. Krista, do you think when you're looking at Halo Wars 2 and Halo Wars 1, is Halo Wars 2 just head and shoulders above Halo Wars 1? Is it obvious like Halo Wars 2 is way better, or is it closer than we think?
I think in some regards Halo Wars 2 does a lot better, especially with like the generators and stuff like that. I thought that was a huge improvement. I hated having stupid things all the time.
Lightning bolts.
So yeah, stupid lightning bolts. I hate them. They're very similar. I think some of the units in Halo Wars 2 are better implemented, like the Cyclops.
Yeah, it's actually useful.
Yeah, it's actually
right.
useful. So there are a lot of units that just kind of work better. Marines are better. They added a bunch of stuff like snipers. So I think that was a great... They tweaked the units enough so that the units that were weaker in Halo Wars 1 are now, they're all kind of even. They do a very specific thing. Obviously, some units are better than others, but every unit is useful. You don't look at it, except Jackrabbits. You don't look at you don't look at a unit and go, "Why is this in the game?" Except Jackrabbits.
What about the leader powers? How their implementation of that was different because we had to unlock them or spend our leader power points to,
Yeah, I wasn't as bothered with that, really. I mean, I always seemed to have those leader power points whenever I actually needed them. So
yeah, it wasn't always clear when you got them either. It almost seemed like it was like
no
if you
idea.
just got to this portion of the mission, you would get another leader point.
I never
I
understood
don't know.
that.
I just opened the wheel and I'd had points to spend, so I just spent
Right.
them. But I think all in all, like most of the leader powers are very similar to Halo Wars 1. Some of them are implemented better of course, and we have a better variety, but
Yeah.
I think it's I don't think there was much of an innovation there other than you have points and upgrades and stuff like that.
David, if you have the itch to play an RTS Halo game, would you ever play Halo Wars 1 ahead of Halo Wars 2? Like, would you ever, like...
No, I don't think so. I think the only reason I'd ever go back to Halo Wars 1 would be just to play the campaign again, the story, and see the cutscenes. I don't think I'd play it for the game that it is.
Yeah.
If I got an itch for a skirmish game or an RTS, I would, I mean, with the discovery of the wonder that is Blitz there, that's actually really decent. I would do that again, I think, of something like that. Or play, I know there's a skirmish mode in there. But I honestly did enjoy the gameplay a lot more, I think, this time around playing Halo Wars 2, and the missions, and I think they're really well structured. I like the units. Yeah, I did. I liked how the game flowed.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I'd go back and play Halo Wars 1 for the nostalgia factor, or just to kind of see what they improved upon. But I think in general, from a gameplay standpoint, I feel like they made all the improvements that I would have wanted. Maybe there's some out there that, some of the more RTS focused people still want, or like from the original game that didn't make its way into Halo Wars 2, or they tweaked they shouldn't have, that sort of stuff. But when I think of playing RTS, Halo Wars 2 is the one that I want to play. Let's talk really quickly about like music and like presentation. I think from my standpoint, Halo Wars 1, like how it looked from a menu standpoint and all that sort of stuff. I remember we had some frustrations. It was basic, but it was also, it was built, what was it, 2008, something like that. It was like a long time ago. So I guess it makes sense that they've improved on that sort of stuff a lot. Like I love the presentation of Halo Wars 2, just like the music and like the stills
the music
all of the different units. Yeah.
And I would say I'd love the presentation and the menu if it didn't crash so much, which it does for me still. It crashes on that menu a lot, but like I love that track is called Crater. That's the main menu track, and that's one of my favorites in of Halo music. I love it so much. I think the soundtrack in this is awesome. I think it's Gordy Rab, I think did the music for it, but I think it's wonderful. I really do love it, and it is cool. I like. There's a lot of Phoenix logs. I think I should really pay attention to them, and I really haven't. There's just so many in there, and the ones that we've read have been really interesting. Do you know what I mean? And they've answered questions we've had on the game, but again, in the way that we put down a game like Destiny, like putting your lore in something like that. But I guess the Phoenix log stuff isn't as core, because obviously Halo Wars tells the story properly when Destiny doesn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess that's folded into here a little bit. It's also folded into like the lore category, so maybe touch on that a little bit. But any thoughts, Krista, on the way that it looks, the sound?
Halo Wars 1's menu was awful, and I could never find anything I wanted to actually find. Because like when you go to play the game, it just starts. You're like, well, how the hell do I change my difficulty in the skulls? And it's like a whole nother thing you have to find. So I just think, like, not to rag on the menu, but it was just so bad in Halo Wars 1. You could never find what you wanted, which was super frustrating, because I'd have to look it up every single time. How do I change my difficulty? So it was just annoying. It was super annoying. Like David said, the Halo Wars 2 menu system would be perfect if it didn't crash. It hasn't crashed for me in a while, but when I first loaded it up, it was crashing a lot. And I'm like, am I going to even be able to play this game?
Yeah.
So, other than that, you can find everything you want in those menus.
Right. The music is, I feel like, I love the Halo Wars 2 music, but, Halo Wars 1 music's really good too. It's unique to that game, but it's also, there's lots of epic music in that. So I don't know if I can put one ahead of the other in my mind. Do you put one ahead of the other, David?
I would say 2, because right now I'm trying to think of a Halo Wars 1 piece of music and I can't.
But you've also been playing this game for months.
yeah, that's also very true. But even
Krista, any thoughts on music?
It's like coming back to the music. I knew this track. I knew I loved it.
Yeah, I know this track a little bit more, but yeah, when I listen to Halo soundtracks, it's usually not Halo Wars 1 and 2, so I'm not as familiar.
Yeah. That's fair. All right, let's move on to a couple other things. The units and vehicles, Krista talked about that a little bit. They're kind of one and the same, units/vehicles. It's tough because I feel like they learned a lot from Halo Wars as they built Halo Wars 2. So I guess the question here is are there any vehicles that you liked better, specifically in Halo Wars 1, than in Halo Wars 2? They made a lot of improvements in Halo Wars 2. I think that's without a doubt. But what Halo Wars 1 units are better? I'll go first. The fact, like, the flamethrowers, the Hellbringers, are terrible in Halo Wars 2. I never used them ever. So I would say they had flamethrowers, right? They were just called something else. I think they were just called flamethrowers in Halo Wars 1. They were more effective in the other game, from my memory. David, what about you? Any standouts?
We've already kind of said it, but Cyclopses are pretty great. I used a lot of them in this game.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, ODSTs are one of my favorite units. It's so much fun. I don't know if I had more fun. I think I did in how they worked in Halo Wars 1, that you just needed the resources and the population count, and then it would load up the gun, let's say, and you could then fire down as many as you had the space for, and that felt amazing. In this game, it just fires down 3, and then you have a cooldown. It's not as impactful as, like, it felt like loading up a weapon and then shooting down the ODSTs, and I enjoyed that. That was more satisfying, and I felt like the times I used it in Halo Wars 1 were way more impactful. Also because I built my game plan around having them ready when I needed them, as opposed to like this game where I was like, if I had a leader, if I had the resources, I just bought them and fired them down. That'd be my one standout, as you ask.
That makes sense. Anything else worth mentioning, Krista, on the units?
Halo Wars 2 is perfect.
Is it? I like that.
It's
I mean, they still got vultures. They didn't take anything away from you, did they? That you really liked?
I liked the Hornet, the Ultimate Hornet upgrade that they took away from us. That was only it was only in like one mission in Halo Wars 1, but it was so cool when you had them, and I missed them. I forget, they're called something entirely different.
Hawk.
The Hawk.
It was
that's
so
right.
good. Why'd they take that away from me?
They did, you're right.
Oh man, I missed that.
But you got the Condor eventually in Halo Wars 2.
Yeah. The Hawks were really cool though.
Yeah, they were. I agree.
That's about it, really.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Kodiaks. They took away the Rhinos. They replaced them with the Kodiaks. They made a lot of smart decisions, I think. They made the Cyclops useful, that we already talked about. They gave personality to the Spartans. I guess we could talk about that a little bit here. I mean, before they were just the Spartans that were on Red Team. They had names, but they had no personality. But like, because of the story that they were telling, and you saw those Spartans integrated into the story throughout, I felt like I had more of a connection when I was playing. You know, when Alice was my Spartan that I had available to me, than in Halo Wars 2 than I did in Halo Wars 1. Whereas, that's just the powerful green unit. I'm going to use that person. Whereas, like, now I get Alice. Yeah. You know, I'm excited about that. Let's talk about just the Banished. I mean, there's lots to talk about, but I feel like, we've talked about it throughout. But how did you feel about fighting the Banished and all their enemies and the diversity that they brought in Halo Wars 2, David, versus, the Covenant and the Flood in Halo Wars 1?
I loved them from aesthetically. I thought they looked great. I think I liked their design. I liked the brutish nature of them. I thought they were pretty cool. They were pretty good. They were a good force to fight against. I liked their unique units. some of them would be like kind of ridiculous, I think, to see in first person, like the Reavers and stuff. I think they're mad looking bi-legged walkers that shoot rockets over them. That just doesn't seem like Halo, but it works in this game. The blisterbacks are amazing. I think they're
oh my god, they're so good. I love
they're
blisterbacks.
to the point that like I hate fighting them, but obviously as a unit that you would use, you would love them. Do you know what I mean? That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
No, I liked them. The Banished were always one of my favorite things about this game was a faction like this. I thought they were pretty great, and I always wanted to see them come into mainline Halo. Delighted to come in Infinitely.
They did a really good job with the variety. There was some variety in Halo Wars, but just not quite enough, I feel like, and that's why they needed the Flood to be part of the story, whereas we didn't really need the Flood. There was enough I guess change-ups. You know, they used a lot of, you know, grunts and brutes, those types of units, but by the end the Banished had a lot at their disposal and a lot of different threats to our forces, and I thought that we didn't really need another faction. It would have been fun to have another faction, maybe somehow. I mean, outside of just the little bit of Sentinels that we saw here and there, but I don't think I didn't feel bored fighting the Banished throughout this game at all. How about you, Krista?
No, I think like Halo Wars 2 had the two enemies, which kind of switched it up, or Halo Wars 1 had the two enemies, which switched it up a lot between the Covenant and the Flood, but I never felt like I was missing something playing Halo Wars 2. Mm-hmm. I guess you kind of fight the Sentinels, but they're not really a big threat. They kind of do their own thing. They don't really bug you unless it's part of the mission.
Yep.
So
yeah, they show up like in specific story moments, but that's it.
And I think having like a hero unit like Decimus and stuff like that, and the Warlords really changed it up as well, because it kind of changes the way you play against them. And also, like, they decided to throw so many scarabs at you, and it was glorious and so much fun. So I almost think that taking away the Flood from the main campaign actually forced 343 to kind of innovate a little bit and give you a little more with the Banished, which was really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, the Flood from Halo Wars 1 had a lot of variety. We'd never seen that much variety in Flood in all of Halo, so they gave us a lot of different ways to fight the Flood and different forms and whatnot. But, I think it just wasn't needed here. The story that they told didn't need to have the Flood or another faction introduced.
I agree.
All right, a couple more categories real quick. We'll do lore and characters last. We'll just kind of tie that stuff together. But anything worth mentioning level design wise, David? Like, any frustrations? Did you think that like the objectives or the maps were better in Halo Wars 1 than Halo Wars 2, or do you think that it was overall Halo Wars 2 did a better job?
I don't know, actually, because I think there might be more iconic levels in Halo Wars 1 that I think of. Like, I remember bigger memories of
Arcadia City,
Arcadia fighting the Scarab Head. Do you know what I mean? The fight, the missions on actual Spirit of Fire.
Yeah.
This game missions, I remembered loving the sniper mission. That'd probably be one of my favorites. I can't remember which one. I don't even remember the names of these missions, to be honest, most of the time.
Mm-hmm. No, neither do I. But
it's not to say, like, I love the mission with Alice going solo. That was really fun. I actually really like those style of missions where you don't have a base, you're given units and you just kind of move around a map, but you're always moving. I really enjoyed them. I think this game does a good job of giving you enough of them. And good times. I don't know. Fun combinations of units. I think, it's a well-designed missions. I didn't
so
really...
you'd almost give the edge to from a level standpoint to Halo Wars.
I might. Yeah, it's probably a better game to play.
Like the final mission of Halo Wars 1 where you had to, like, open the portal.
Yeah. That's an epic moment. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think... Like, there's some good missions in this one, but I think Halo Wars 1 had a better variety. Because for Halo Wars 2, you're either on the Ark or on the Halo. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would say I would say there's good variety in Halo Wars 2, but from a I don't know, impactful moments, Halo Wars 1 probably had more of those when you're thinking of like, oh, this level, whereas the Halo Wars 2 missions kind of all run together, even though there is variety, but there's, I guess they're just not as distinct as Halo Wars from what I remember.
Yeah, I remember Halo Wars 2 is more of like an overall campaign instead of individual missions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's a good way to do it.
Which is I guess a good lead into the lore. I mean, that to me tells that statement says to me that they did a good job of telling an interesting story that kept things moving, and you were focused, you were more interested in the story that they were telling than, you know, the gameplay elements of...
Oh, I think the Halo Wars 2 story is by far better. Halo Wars 1 had a lot of issues where you moved around a lot, and some of the stuff felt canon breaking and was a little confusing. So I think overall the Halo Wars 2 story is easier to follow and more impactful to the overall universe. It's like Halo Wars 1, like the Flood comes in and it's like, wait, the Flood's here.
Right.
Also, where are we? Are we still in Arcadia or are we on Harvest? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think that's
Right.
one of the kind of the big things about Halo Wars 2 is that it brings you to familiar places and ties you to them. Places you're already tied to as a Halo fan, as opposed to Halo Wars, where you go to places you may have heard of, you know, Harvest, Arcadia. These are names you would know, but then you go to like crazy places and then you have crazy objectives. Now, they actually turned out to be, I think, maybe more fun to play around with, but I think the story is definitely easier to follow in Halo Wars. But I loved every bit of story I got in Halo Wars 1 too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I appreciated it. It took me a couple times to understand exactly what was happening in Halo Wars 1, where in Halo Wars 2 I picked it up immediately.
Yeah. I think some of it helped, like with the mission briefings, they did a better job with that, like before they throw it into the gameplay, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that
And
was
obviously,
very nice.
You know, the cutscenes are just
I think-
gorgeous and super memorable.
Yeah, it's always clear what you're doing while you're doing it.
Well, and we're also, like David said, we're already familiar with the arc. We kind of know what it's about. Halo Wars 1 introduced a concept that wasn't really heard of in the Halo universe at the time, which was the shield world.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to explain a shield world in these
But it
small
was-
cutscenes.
It was
Right.
sure as hell fun to watch, though.
Oh god, it was so... It's great. Halo Wars 1 does a lot for the series, but they try to put in very high level stuff into an RTS, and RTSs don't have very strong stories to begin with.
Yeah. Right, just by nature of the... I mean, they're trying to tell a story to move the gameplay forward and have elements that are being introduced make sense. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's a little bit different with Halo. Like, they're trying to inject extended universe, you know, elements into this. Like, this is a platform for them to do that. Whereas, like a standalone RTS maybe wouldn't care as much about the story as, you know, what a franchise would for their RTS entry.
Yeah, like a normal RTS, you don't really care about the story. You're just playing the game. RTSs generally aren't the best storytelling devices.
Yeah, right. I would agree with that. But that's not the reason you're playing an RTS necessarily. You're playing for that, you know, that management, you know, base building, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you're playing an RTS to play an RTS. You're not
Yeah.
playing an RTS to figure out a story.
Yeah, as long as it makes some sense, then you're fine. But anyway, what about the characters? So did we miss John Forge in this at all? They didn't
Who?
mention him at all. They
be
showed
honest,
his
yeah.
cryo tube, but that's it.
I forgot
To
about
be
him
honest,
a long
yeah.
time ago.
They really did just wipe the slate clean with him altogether. which is also fine because at the same time, Halo has a habit of just talking about dead people all the time and writing books and stories about them when they're long dead in the modern day canon. So it's fine that they let him go. Well, because, you know, Kelly Gay has picked up the threads of his story, which I like, and I prefer that route that they did. And if that ever comes in, fuck yeah, Colin, I'm all about it. But I do like the characters they have. I think they took what was good about Halo Wars 1 characters. I think fleshed them out really well here. Because we lose Serena, and that is a big loss. You feel that a little bit.
Like, Serena's just like snarky AI. She's like
Yeah, but she's like she
is
in
unique.
Halo Wars 1, she's the Cortana. You know, she's the one who
Yeah.
kind of keeps you grounded and interested in what's going on.
I don't know,
but
man.
she's
Her
generic
speech at this
Cortana, I think.
You think so? Yeah, maybe she's like Cortana light or whatever.
Yeah.
But I did like her, and I thought she was unique enough. Isabel's a completely different character that you warm to over the game. I think they did a good job of that because I wasn't overly impressed with her in the beginning. But then I like that. I like the fact they've taken a different AI that wasn't built for this function and now has to adapt, and that's human nature. And I think that's really clever. Thought that was really well done, showing her coming across her relationship with Cutter. Thought he was amazing again. He is so good, and the facial performances across the board were amazing. They did a hell of a job with Red Team. No, I remember thinking Red Team came out of this way better than they probably did. The second time around playing, I maybe have embellished in my mind, but they did, going from like the Wars 1 to 2, obviously did a way more job. Everyone's gonna Jerome and Alice are properly built characters. Douglas doesn't get as much love, I don't think, but that's okay. I think Red Team they're poised to be something. They could be something more if 343 needed them to be. I think that'd be perfect. I mean,
David, I have a question. Can you tell them apart now?
Who apart, Colin? You see? It's Red Team. Do you know what I mean?
They're just all
Alice has the Gatling gun, and Jerome has the rocket launcher.
Yeah, something like that.
Douglas has the Spartan laser.
No, I think Jerome is the beam. I think Douglas is the rockets.
Damn it, I had a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, like the humans, you have obviously, Anders. Anders is a great character. I like her a lot. She's Halsey, not Halsey, but whatever, that's fine. I like her.
She even has a beef with Halsey, which is great.
Yeah, it is good, and I obviously loved how they tied her into Halsey's journal. I thought that was great. Just a little one-liner thing that she's in there. That's really good because obviously you're building. We need to eventually, because the Halo canon is progressing, we need to replace these characters. Do you know what I mean? So we need redundancies, and they're in there. That's fine. On the human side, I can't think of anything more. We could get more, but like as we said in RTS, we don't need loads. I think the characters are there, and each one of them we've mentioned are great. Douglas is the only one that doesn't really get a lot of time. But that's again fine. And then on the other side, the star of the show is there's Aatrox and Decimus, and that's, I think, all that really matters, which is a shame because obviously you have I'm just getting the shipmaster for the Enduring Conviction, Leveler. Like he is way more. He is actually an interesting character, but again, he doesn't exist at all in this game, other than 2 cutscenes maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I thought they kind of killed. I mean, Decimus is in the gameplay. It would have been nice to see him fleshed out a little bit more and like why he was the top lieutenant and stuff like that. But I guess the only thing I would have done differently is maybe instead of killing Decimus as the top lieutenant, killing like the second top lieutenant or something like that, and keeping a Decimus like character at his side.
Decimus is just your generic brute, so he can be anybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can just take any brute and say, he's Decimus 2.0, here's the next brute leader.
Sure.
He wasn't that unique, I don't think. He was there to be...
Well, yeah, they didn't present him to be, but I'm saying like they could have. Like he's got his own, his own unique look and stuff like that, but... And a badass name, if you ask me.
Decimus is a cool name.
Mm-hmm. Anything else to add on characters, Krista?
I think Cutter was very well fleshed out. I also think, like, the Spirit of Fire's crew felt like its own character as well, like kind of just the people in the background. And I think it was literally just because Cutter referred to them so much, like, this is our family, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I think them bringing the crew into the fold and being like, oh yeah, there are people on the ship doing all this stuff, trying to make sure everything works.
Yeah. It gives you a little bit more... it gives because they've talked about like 12,000 souls or something like that on the Spirit of Fire. It gives a little bit of a face to who those people are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've
they're all
analogs to
super
like
cool.
things like this as well, like things like Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek and stuff like that, where you have spaceships with large populations on them, with captains and how they tie in with their crew and stuff like that. And I think this is another great job of like a sci-fi spaceship with a captain and a group of people who are in something together and become stronger because of it. Again, it's only cutscenes and stuff, but that's fine. I think they need to be there, and like I think Chris is right. Yeah, the way he refers to them is really what makes them stand out and matter.
Who's
Go ahead,
Kristen. No, I was going to ask you a final question, so...
Okay,
You go ahead.
well, I was just going to wrap it up and say that's pretty much, other than what you and David have said, that's really the only standout for me.
Who's your favorite character, Krista, in Halo Wars 2?
Alice.
Okay. David?
In Halo Wars 2,
We were both Forge people in Halo Wars 1, and he's not around anymore.
that's true. I want to say Atriox, but he's not in the game enough, to be honest, and I think that's probably intentional, but like, he's definitely one of my favorite things coming out of this game that exists in the Halo lore. I'm so
That's a
happy
good
he's
point.
there. But I guess probably Cutter.
Okay.
I think just because I think I enjoyed his performances and like how he came
Every
across
time
throughout
he
the
was
game.
was on screen, like, something really cool was happening.
Yeah.
And his responses to like Atriox and stuff, I just liked him. I like him as a person. He's our Captain Keys there, still alive, so I'm pretty happy.
He
with
really is. He's the Captain Keys that didn't just get horribly murdered.
Yeah, I have to stick to Atriox. I'm loyal to Atriox, but I think you do bring up a good point. Like he's fleshed out more in like the comic and then in the logs a little bit than he actually is in the game. You know, he's got the one big cutscene at the beginning and then another good cutscene towards the middle and end, but that's kind of about it. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with Isabel too.
I love Isabel.
I
think
think
she's great.
having her on their side with the created threat could be interesting. Knowing what she's done, what she's probably learned from that experience on the Ark, I think that she could be a powerful AI that the UNSC will leverage moving forward. And I'm a big Jerome guy too, so I like Jerome. I like a lot of these characters. All right, let's wrap this up. I guess let's just flat out say which one's better, Halo Wars or Halo Wars 2, David?
Oh, I'd have to say 2, just going off everything we've said.
Yeah, Krista?
Gotta be 2.
Yeah, I think so too. They've took a lot of the good things from Halo Wars, and not to say that I think we all enjoyed our time with Halo Wars, but they took a lot of the things that were good from that game, made them better, took the things that we wanted to be better, and just overall the package is a great experience. So I would say if you're choosing between the two, or for some reason you haven't played Halo Wars 2, play that, and that should give you that RTS itch from a Halo standpoint. All right, so we are going to play the DLC from here. So there are two DLC. Yeah, sorry, Krista, you're on the hook for a little more. There's Operation Spearbreaker, which has 2 missions in it, and I haven't played them. I played them originally, but I haven't played them recently. So we're either going to do a show on each one and then a recap, or we're just going to do a show on the first one and then the second one and like do a recap as a part of the second show. So we'll let you guys know how that shakes out. And then there's a second DLC that is all about the Banished, which is super cool and has more blur cutscenes in it. And so we'll be covering that as well, and then TBD after that. So we'll see what happens. I would say from if you haven't read the Phoenix Logs, I haven't read them all because a lot of them are like about each unit and each character. that we probably already know, but I would say spend some time and just kind of go through all of them. There's a ton of them, so I can see how it'd be overwhelming, but chip away at reading those, because there are little nuggets that are interesting in there. And then if you haven't already, go read Kelly Gabe's books, Smoke and Shadow and Renegades, because those are fantastic, and they talk about Spirit of Fire and Forge and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yay!
All right, let's do the community question quick, and we will get out of here. We're running long.
Yeah, super quick. Colin Perkins created a poll, admin, 4th September, 8:21 p.m. Do you want the Spirit of Fire to make an appearance in Halo Infinite? If yes, how do you want it? So it could be for any episode of Mission Debrief. It's actually very difficult to tell. This is the first time Colin's made a mistake. Just want the record to show.
Oh my god.
So we had a fantastic voting, and it was overwhelmingly yes. People wanted Spirit of Fire in this game. It is not going to be there, guys. We have 36 votes to 4, which is pretty hefty. Like that's a landslide victory. Like a lot of voting, a lot of comments. Wow. I won't go through them all in the interest of time, but I maybe skim one or two. Everyone wants a ship to come in. Patrick says ship to come in and save the day kind of entrance. Drop a full arsenal of fuck shit's deck and banish think we're fucked now. Installation Tier 7 is somehow brought to the Ark for repair. Oh, that is interesting. And we find the crew and the Spirit of Fire there as well. That is genius, Jake. Yeah, that is a very nice way of doing those things together. You get a like, Jake. I like that now.
Yeah.
Well done, buddy. Money question over. That's fine. Red team is dope. Wants more Garage. So yeah, I think so. I think a red and blue team reunite would be awesome. Something Anders ring. Something Aatrox. Gotta catch them all. Something red and blue team meet up for a hectic Spartan fun times. That's Richard. That's pretty good. I'll just skim the last few just in case I miss a goodie. Manny says pockets of human resistance are hiding out from the created. Cortana 2.0 has a plan to take Infinity to the Ark and adjust the halos, the firing only affecting the domain. Interesting. Oh, and they find the Spirit of Fire there too. That could be good. Yeah, that's a weird way to say the firing only affecting the domain. I don't know what that would mean. You wouldn't want to fire the domain. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure Manny meant something else there. But anyway,
the domain's what's keeping
very
the
last.
AIs
Ethan
alive.
says, "I want the Spirit to crash through a banished cruiser, Infinity style. Could we possibly make any more noise? Infinity drops out of space, crashes through a capital ship next to a destroyed cruiser. I guess so. That's pretty good, Ethan. And I'll leave it there. But thank you all for your responses, guys.
Nice, awesome. Thank you very much. What's Discord have to say?
All right, we got 12 for yes, 3 for no. I'm not sure who those 3 people are, but Claptrap says travel to the Ark and Aatrox and the Spirit team up with the Infinity to fight Cortana. Matt says, I want to see them mentioned, maybe find a way to tie in Forge, but the ship doesn't actually need to appear. I think it's better if they remain on the Ark separate from the UNSC, at least for now. Dezuto says, I'd quite like Anders to be Chief's new savant in place of Cortana.
I like that.
Shadow of Oni Cutter. Master Chief, what are you doing on that ring? Chief, sir, finishing the fight. Hard cut to black as credits roll, and we're forced to wait 3 years for the conclusion of how it happens.
Okay.
And then David says he fucked up Mission Debrief.
No, I didn't.
And that's about all I got.
That's alright, David. I screwed up Bill's blocks this week, so.
We're just screwing up here and there.
We are. We're all human.
No.
I did post this on Twitter too. I forgot about that until now. So same question. Do you want to see Spirit of Fire make an appearance in Halo Infinite? And on Twitter we had 131 votes.
Holy shit.
68% said yes, and 31% said no. So still yes, but a more resistance on Twitter than the other two. So go check that out. You can see a couple fun responses from there. But we've been running long, so we gotta cut it. That'll do it for a recap of the main campaign of Halo Wars 2. On the next episode, we'll be playing the Halo Wars 2 DLC Operation Spearbreaker Gatecrashers mission. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. You can also support the show by visiting Podcast Evolved on Patreon. And don't forget that free audiobook trial. Visit audibletrial.com/podcastevolved. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved.
Oof, that might be our longest one ever.